Almost 1 minute. Yeah, 1 minute.
Good morning. Good morning. Good morning, everyone. Please, can we confirm that you can hear me? You can put up your favorite emoji for those on the call. If you can hear me, yes, I see thumbs up. Thank you so much. Yeah, so welcome to another edition of the. Yeah, I see a lot of thumbs up. Is thumbs up our favorite emoji? No hearts. Thank you very much for that heart. All right. Welcome to another edition of Drug Stock Learning. This is a very timely conversation that we are having. But before I go into all of that, let me just do a little bit of introduction. So welcome. I hope the morning is going on beautifully and we are ready to get all of the insights that we're gonna get from our speakers. And this edition of the webinar or of Drug Stock Learning is very important, like I said before. So I suggest that we take out our notepads, take out your pens, because there's a lot that you can jot down from the session. So my name is Pharmacist Onyinye Chiekwe, and I'm the Communications Manager here at Drugstock. But before I go into, all that we have lined up for you today, let me do a bit of introduction for those of us that are joining the session for the first time. So Drugstock is a tech-enabled pharmaceutical distribution company or a supply chain technology company. And we are on a mission to ensure that quality and genuine medicines are accessible to everyone. We empower healthcare providers from pharmacies to clinics, hospitals, labs, and digital health platforms as well to ensure that they have reliable access to safe medicines, efficient supply chains, and tech tools, data-driven tech tools to ensure that they can improve patients' outcomes, because we know that a pharmacist or a doctor is only as good as the resources you have around you at your disposal. So we ensure that healthcare providers generally are empowered. And at Drugstock, we believe that when healthcare providers succeed, definitely patients thrive. Healthcare system in Nigeria continues to improve. Now, beyond access to medicines, we also ensure that it's a 360-degree empowerment thing for us here. We believe in empowering healthcare providers with knowledge, because knowledge is power. And this is why we created Drugstock Learning. Drugstock Learning is our continuous learning platform, which we have designed to equip healthcare professionals with practical insight, policy updates, industry updates, business intelligence to help you scale sustainably and have like real impact in your businesses and in the way you approach care to patients. And through sessions like this, we connect healthcare providers to experts, industry experts, and practitioners who, join in to discuss real issues that affect the healthcare system. And now for our discussion today, the new tax reforms have been the rave. Everybody's talking about it. A lot of people are asking questions. Interestingly, this session was birthed from our session last month, where we had the how pharmacists can contribute to global healthcare. And then questions came up regarding the tax reforms, how it's going to impact patient delivery, data collection, and all of that. So from that feedback, we thought Drugstock thought it wise to create or curate something like that, something that will help healthcare providers to have full information at your fingertips on the tax reforms and how it could impact your business, hopefully positively. So this is what this session is all about, so that you learn not just the tax laws, but how you can leverage these laws or these reforms to ensure that you are not compromising on patient care. You are still able to give quality patient care and nobody suffers at the end of the day. So we have a very robust panel. I'm sure we have been putting out our meet our panelists because we are so excited to have them on board. And I'm going to introduce them shortly, but first let's do some housekeeping. So we have the Q&A chat box where you can drop in all your chats and questions that you have. So as we go on, you can ask your questions. You don't need to wait till the end of the session. We will pick up some questions to read out as we go on, and some will be reserved till the end. And then we'll also have polls come up intermittently that you can please help us fill, so that we have, it is polls like this that help us know what content to bring on and help us feel the pulse of how we're doing, your take on the content, whether you liked it, whether you're willing to refer, stuff like that. And these things help us to improve the entire package. So thank you in advance as you fill the polls. We look forward to seeing your responses. So we are going to go right into it right now. I'm going to explain how the whole session will run. So first of all, we are going to have a keynote speaker come on. So this keynote session is essentially going to let us know what the tax reforms are as they concern healthcare providers, healthcare businesses. So from the foundation of that, we'll go into the panel discussion where we'll have all three speakers give their insights regarding the questions that we have. I have questions already for them, but I'm hoping that, I'm certain, in fact, that we are going to have a lot more questions from the participants. So I'm going to go straight to introduce our panelists. This is an exciting part for me to do. So I'll start with our keynote speaker. Our keynote speaker is Adesope Oko, and she's a partner in the tax services line of EY Nigeria, that's Ernst & Young, with over 15 years of experience advising multinational corporations on complex international, cross-border, and local tax and regulatory matters. Her work spans multiple sectors, including consumer products, telecommunications, energy, logistics, financial services, healthcare, and tech. Her core areas of expertise include international tax structuring, startups, mergers and acquisitions, transaction support, cross-border advisory, and cross-border tax controversy. In addition, she serves as one of the leaders in the EY Consumer Industry Group Africa, that's CIGA sector. Here, she plays a key role in shaping sector-specific tax insights and engagement across the cluster. So beyond her technical capacities, Adesope also has a keen interest and passion for mentoring young professionals, helping to strengthen the next generation of business leaders, both within and outside of her firm. Thank you very much, Adesope, for joining us. Thank you for your time. You know that we don't take this for granted. And then our next speaker, who is going to be a member of the panel, is Mrs. Mojisola Adebusola Aladesomi. Aladesomi is a member of the Chartered Institute of Taxation of Nigeria and a seasoned community pharmacist with over 3 decades of experience in pharmaceutical practice. She is the CEO of Olive Heights Pharmacy and the Publicity Secretary of the Healthcare Providers Association of Nigeria, HCPAN Lagos. Famoji is a dedicated professional and she is an active industry voice. Famoji has served on different platforms, industry platforms. She is the current Assistant Secretary of the Association of Community Pharmacists of Nigeria, ACPN Lagos. She was a 2-time Secretary of the ACPN National Conference Planning Committee, and she served as a zonal coordinator for the Yesba zone of the ACPN Lagos. And she continues to champion, anything that makes the industry just progress and advance. Thank you very much, Ma, for joining in, and look forward to all your insights as you're going to share your experience, being a tax expert and also running a community pharmacy. And Dr. Olaleye. Dr. Olaleye is a seasoned health finance professional with over 17 years experience in the health sector. He is an alumnus of the University of Lagos, where he received his medical degree, and he has worked across several verticals in the healthcare industry. Dr. Olaleye was a one-time head of provider relations for IGEA HMO, head of health sector business, FSDH Merchant Bank, and presently he is the group head, health finance for Sterling Bank Limited. Over the years, he has been able to bridge the gap between healthcare professionals and the finance industry. And through this, he has driven partnerships and profitable collaborations. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, panelists, speaker. This is an exciting session. I know that it's going to be because this lineup is just really robust, and I'm looking forward to it. So we're going to go right into the keynote session where I'm going to invite Mrs. Adeshokwe to come on and, from your experience and from consulting and everything, let us know the tax reforms as it concern healthcare providers, healthcare businesses, and how it could impact businesses. And then, we'll take it up from there with the panel session. So I'm passing the mic over to you, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Fam Onye. Can you hear me? Please confirm that you can hear me clearly.
I can, but I'd like the members of the audience to please confirm that they can hear as well.
Okay, so I see thumbs up, so everyone can hear me. So thank you so much, and good morning, everyone, colleagues, panelists, medical practitioners here. It's indeed a privilege to be here to discuss an issue I believe is at the top of any business owner, entrepreneur, or any professional generally, because clearly it's a hot topic as to how, it touches every aspect of how we, particularly for the health sector, how we deliver care, build sustainable businesses, and drive innovation in Nigeria's healthcare sector. Basically, the real cost of healthcare. So I think this is a real good topic in season that, is worth discussing. So for years, healthcare professionals have carried two burdens, right? The obvious one really is the burden of saving lives, and then another important factor I know is the fact that, the burden of keeping those life-saving systems afloat amidst the rising costs and complexities of doing business in Nigeria, despite, the inconsistent fiscal policies. Now, with the ongoing tax reforms in Nigeria, we are at a turning point, obviously, and this isn't just this isn't just about the new tax rates or the filing systems or tax rules as it will impact your business, but it's really about how the reforms redefine the economics, particularly for healthcare. This is because every policy eventually finds its way to the price of care, the affordability of healthcare for patients, as well as the sustainability for businesses that serve within the healthcare sector. So in the next few minutes, I'll just set the context for our discussion, which I believe should be very instrumental in forming the basis of our discussions during the panel session. So really, what's the vision behind the Nigerian tax reform? So generally speaking, before we delve into, before we delve into anything in life generally, it's always critical to understand the objective. So there are rules in place, there are reforms beyond the general impression that the reforms are set to rake in more revenue for the government, which somewhat is a salient objective. I guess I believe it's also critical for us to really understand the vision behind it. So with the new government, a presidential fiscal policy and tax reform committee was established, and the goals for that committee was very bold. The main goal was quite profound, which is basically to rebuild trust in the Nigerian tax system. Now, the government has recognized that the old structure, which I believe is a good place to start, the current rules as we have it, are quite complex, fragmented, and in some cases ambiguous. And you know what happens when there's ambiguity? The risk of non-compliance festers, okay? Now, to solve this issue, right, clear agendas were set out, for the new tax reforms and into 5 pillars, I believe. So the idea really is to ensure simplification, i.e. reducing the complexity of multiple taxes across different levels of government, to ensure fairness, digitalization with the new e-invoicing systems, to ensure competitiveness, thereby incentivizing sectors that drive innovation and local production, especially healthcare and technology. Another pillar, which I believe is the last pillar, is for transparency. Thereby you have a system or a reform system that creates or that shows Nigerians where every tax naira goes, So, but the question really is whether these pillars or objectives in line with the new reforms have been met or as intended, whether the intended objective have been met. And I'll leave everybody here to be the judge of that. So specifically for the healthcare sector, I believe the plan really from the reforms will be to create a fiscal environment that allows clinics, pharmacies, and hospitals, as well as startups, to focus on delivering value instead of battling bureaucracy. Like I said earlier, the jury is out as to whether the reforms as we have it meet the intended objectives. So now let's talk about the heart of today's discussion, the real cost of healthcare. Now, every policy decision on taxation, whether on corporate profits, VAT exemptions or whatnot, affects the affordability and accessibility of any business generally, and specifically for healthcare. So for example, when VAT, value-added tax, is applied to certain medical consumables on, I'd say maybe diagnostic equipment, it obviously increases the cost of this service delivery, which should ultimately be passed on to patients. So when another example would be when, digital health platform face new VAT obligations on online consultations or subscriptions, the price of innovation increases. So another, and also when compliance processes are manual and costly, smaller clinics within the supply chain of the medical space bear a disproportionate load. So this really is the cost of healthcare, the hidden price of policy choices. But the reforms which we have underway and should become effective next year give us a chance to recalibrate this cost. The question is, to what extent? So the idea is to be able to build a more predictable system where compliance and quality are not opposing forces, but complementary ones. So very quickly, let's unpack some of the key policy shifts that matter most to private healthcare and digital health and the digital healthcare sector. So one of the key changes, I believe, if we're to put it all together, is the fact that we have a streamlined and harmonized tax structure. So there's an ongoing effort to harmonize taxes, which will help eliminate multiple levies imposed on hospital, pharmacies, labs, across the healthcare value chain. So for example, we have a unified rate for income tax. So currently, under the old law, right, I'm always wary to call it the old law because it's still ongoing and will still be effective to December. So I'd say under the current rules, you have a separate tax regime that's subject to tax income or profits of businesses. On the other hand, you have a capital gains provision, that subjects to tax the disposal of equipment. So maybe if you have medical equipment that are being disposed of, there's a separate regime under the tax laws, current tax laws, that will subject such gains to tax at 10%. However, under the new reforms, there is a unified taxation system that subjects every gains, whether it's from income from businesses or gains relating to capital expenditure. You have a unified tax system, that subjects all such incomes in one bucket, i.e. income tax at 30%. So this means lower administrative overheads, fewer surprise taxes, and more room for proper financial planning. There's also a big point on digitalization of the tax administration, about the e-invoicing system. So when you have an e-filing system and integrated platform, tax processes should become more transparent. And I say should because I recognize that for an economy like Nigeria that is just transiting into digitalization, there could be some teething issues. But if we get it right, the ideal, the goal really, the dream will be that we have a more transparent and less prone to inefficiency tax system. This is especially relevant for digital health entrepreneurs who are already leveraging technology for compliance and can now become part of their tech ecosystem. Now, another big change will be as it relates to VAT and healthcare exemptions. Under the current law, we have VAT on the treatment of VAT on essential medical goods and pharmaceutical products being largely exempt. However, under the current law, and this is an advantage that I don't think a lot of us are catching, maybe, under the current laws, this VAT, which we're currently, under the new laws rather, they are now going to be treated as zero rated, which simply means that any cost, any VAT cost on the acquisition of these medical supplies can be used as an offset on your output VAT upon your sales, which effectively should reduce the VAT that will be payable within the medical space. However, for digital goods and services, for things like telemedicine, e-health platforms, these are now brought within the VAT net. So recognizing the fact that we're going more digital than manual. So these digital services and goods have now been clearly brought within scope for VAT taxation and consideration. So this would require a new kind of readiness, which will mean understanding how to stay compliant while remaining competitive in the market amidst these new laws. So another big pillar in terms of the changes would be the fact that we have incentives for innovation and local production. So tax incentives are being aligned to favor local manufacturing of drugs and medical devices, healthcare innovation, and digital infrastructure. This is a major opportunity for investors and entrepreneurs to expand production and technological capacity within Nigeria. Okay, another consideration will be as it relates to personal income tax. So the pay system, the pay-as-you-earn system has been simplified. So for healthcare institutions and startups employing across states, we are now moving based on the new reforms towards a uniform pay structure that, should somewhat be predictable and ensure a better payroll system and management for institutions and companies, right? So another interesting factor will be as it relates to transparency for compliance. Okay, so the question will really be, how do we stay compliant as businesses without compromising care, quality, or access? So I'll give a few strategies that I think business should consider in balancing compliance and care, given the new rules on one hand, compliance to the new reforms on one hand, and they need to be mindful of the fact that we're running a business in a complex structure as Nigeria. So a few strategies I'd recommend that companies integrate their tax compliance into their financial system so that it's within a system that runs concurrently and aligns. While it aligns with your business objectives from a financial standpoint, it also ensures that it is compliant with the new rules. So engaging the services of providers that can help to integrate the compliance requirements into the financial system, into your financial systems, regardless of how complex your systems are or simplified, is something that should be considered. So we want to use digital tools to automate reporting and payments to reduce errors and penalties, because as you know, the penalties for non-compliance are quite significant, so it's not worth it. All right. Another strategy to be considered, companies should stay informed and proactive. Don't wait for enforcement. So the new laws have been enacted. Everybody has a level ground to know, to read, understand these rules, engage the services of professionals, if you can, to help you demystify and understand how these changes impact your business. I know that since the new reforms came out in draft form and since it was enacted, there's been different platforms, including what we're doing now, to discuss the changes, webinars, etc. That's great. That will give you a fair understanding of the general provisions of the law. However, to be able to internalize and properly understand how it impacts your business, a bespoke understanding of what I'll call assessment vis-a-vis your business should be very critical. So stay informed. Don't wait for enforcement. What we expect is that from time to time, and that typically happens when new laws have been put in place, some form of clarifications will be issued by the tax authorities, whether in form of circulars or regulations. So it will be important for practitioners within this space to watch, what the space, see what government is saying via circulars, via notifications, and in some cases, they issue notices that are specific to certain sectors. So while the current laws or reforms are not very sector-centric, there could be some rollout policies following or riding on the back of the reforms that could be sector-specific. So better we put our ears to the ground, engage with policy updates through professional associations and your tax advisors. Another thing that I think is important is to adopt collaborative advocacy. So healthcare bodies can come together and collectively engage policymakers to ensure that future tax policies support and not just stifle, support and not stifle their businesses. So one thing I know that is really strong and can influence policy will be where you have strong associations within your healthcare space to highlight certain ambiguities or issues that may be detrimental to healthcare businesses as a whole. And you have these professional bodies or healthcare bodies come together and engage with the policymakers to have certain concessions. We've seen instances where, and I've seen that this happen across sectors. An example would be the banking sector, where the rules are not as favorable. And given the fact that it has a huge impact, on the possibility of, successfully carrying out your business, we've seen policymakers within industries bodies within these industries engage with policymakers to come up with a special purpose instruction that should help to relax these negative impacts on the businesses. Or another way would be to ensure that any subsequent laws that will be issued, these issues as highlighted by the bodies are taken into consideration. So policy advocacy collaboratively is very important and should be considered within the healthcare space. So plan for transparency, that's very key. Pharmacies, doctors, investors, donors, would increasingly look for organizations. Investors and donors particularly will increasingly look for organizations with clean, auditable financial structures. So keep in mind that compliance strengthens trust and attracts capital. So even with these new reforms, if you're donor seeking or you're looking for investors, you want to ensure that your books are clean and auditable and ensuring alignment with the new laws. So leverage incentives. There are certain incentives in the new law. So understand what these incentives are. Understand how they apply to your business. Understand what the eligibility requirements are. So for example, we have the economic development tax incentives, and that's basically an incentive that gives some form of relaxed tax program for companies that qualify. So that provision lays out an array of activities that would qualify for the incentive, particularly for the healthcare sector. We have construction of tertiary, for example, construction of tertiary or specialist hospital, that should qualify. So basically the point is explore broadly within the new reforms what incentives are applicable. Some are not sector specific, some are activity specific, some are transaction specific, some are just on a general note. So identify what the reliefs are, what the eligibility requirements are, what documentation you need to put in place, what time you need to apply for these incentives, and what the processes are, so that you can take advantage of these incentives and significantly reduce your effective tax burden. So in short, the goal is not to avoid taxes as a business, but it's to manage them intelligently so that they don't undermine your mission in the healthcare space. So looking forward, right, as these reforms take root, they are crucial, there's a crucial opportunity for policymakers to continue refining incentives that support the healthcare and digital ecosystems. And this is where policy engagement becomes very, very crucial for us within the healthcare space. So as much as we can, a collaborative effort, just so that it defines how we share responsibilities for building a nation that delivers quality, affordable self-care, as well as,
Please just go on.
Oh,
it's a poll that came up, yes.
Okay. So that was the point on collaboration. So as we begin the panel session, I hope I've been able to set the right context. So I'm inviting us to explore not just what these reforms mean, but how we can make them work within the space. So for every clinic represented here, every pharmaceutical establishment, every innovator, and for every Nigerian who deserves quality healthcare. Let's be mindful of how the reforms affect our businesses and how we can ensure compliance for the betterment of our great nation, Nigeria. So thank you very much, and we would speak during the panel session again. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. This was so, to the point, punchy and insightful. Thank you very much for packaging all of that. Yeah, thank you for packaging that into this very concise and easy to understand format. Thank you very much, ma'am. So, okay, we are going to go straight into the panel session. So this has provided a good foundation for us to build upon as we take questions and as I go over to the healthcare providers and, finance experts so that we get a clearer understanding. So now we understand what the new reforms are. But now how do these reforms impact the direct businesses? So we are going to have practical conversations now so that everybody on the call can see firsthand how you can improve your business, because these are people who have run healthcare businesses and who are running healthcare businesses. So I'm going to start with Dr. Oluwafemi Olaleye. Please, sir, confirm you can hear me.
Yes, I can hear you.
All right, amazing. So, sir, from your vantage point, leading health finance at Sterling Bank, what are the most significant ways that the new tax reforms will reshape financial planning for private healthcare businesses? And still, okay, maybe you should take that first because there is a follow-up question on that.
Okay, let me get the follow-up question also.
Okay, yeah. And also, do you foresee these reforms pushing HCPs, that's healthcare providers, especially smaller ones, just as Mr. Adesope mentioned, into more formal financial structures or banking relationships like loans, seeking grants, seeking loans, and every other form of financial relationship?
Well, the first thing is that I think that if you look at the new policy, it actually does a lot to favor and ease cost on healthcare businesses. For instance, small healthcare businesses where about 60 to 70% of players fall in with revenues of between 100 million and below are tax exempt, so they don't pay company income taxes. You also have that there is VAT exemption in terms of when you're buying certain assets, and most of the small businesses, SMEs in the healthcare space, don't have assets of up to 250 million naira. So we are talking about businesses that really this new tax law doesn't really have significant impact on their day-to-day and how their business is run. However, when you now begin to talk about the medium-sized SME to big SMEs, large SMEs to corporate type players in the healthcare space, and we don't have a lot of those, they would what I see them doing is that a lot of them will just make a little bit of adjustments in how they structure their finances, how they spend, how they deploy their capital. Let me even take it vertical by vertical. Let's look at the hospital vertical. If you have conversant with the financials of most of the big players in the hospital space, you know that a lot of them actually report losses due to the fact that the growth in their revenues year on year has not measured up to the increasing costs you have due to devaluation of the naira, due to the floating of FX, and so you will find that for many of them, for a lot of them, what would happen would be if they continue on a loss-making trajectory, they will not pay significantly much, income tax, because some of them are EBITDA negative, and some of them. So basically, what I'm trying to tell you is that in the healthcare space, we are in a precarious situation where I do not think an increase in, CIT or, it would significantly impact, players in the hospital segment. However, the significant impact would be in the pharmaceutical space because a lot of growth is happening there, right? In the hospital space, especially in the tertiary space, what's going on is that there are some investments coming in to try to increase capacity, to try to ensure that tertiary care can be delivered at a particular quality. But even though that capital has been deployed, we are not seeing profitability yet in most of those spaces because those businesses are still trying to grow and try to ensure that they can kind of like for their business case to actually be at a more fruitful space. But for the pharmaceutical, there's a lot of growth there. If you look at even the stock exchange and you look at the players there, the likes of Fitsin, Mikio, you're seeing them report year-on-year growth. A lot of them do, at least top 5 are about close to 50 billion or above. But in the new tax rate, you find that for companies that do 50 billion above I believe that is in revenue, their effective tax rate is about 15%, which is decent compared to contemporaries in sub-Saharan Africa, where you have tax rate of about 25, 30, 35, So I don't think, all right, from a standpoint of the big players, that it is much of a problem. There's a lot of concessions in these tax laws as regards VAT. If you are buying a lot of equipment for the purpose of boosting productions and all that, it is VAT exempt. VAT is only going to be on inputs into production and things like that. For pharmaceutical players also, purchase of APIs, is VAT exempt. And they also have that there were some, because currently right now you have some exceptions from customs in the importation of acute pharmacological ingredients, reducing the cost of manufacturing for local pharmaceutical manufacturers, which makes it, easier for them to grow. And that is actually what you're seeing. I would just say that I think that the healthcare industry should embrace what's going on. But for medium, bigger type healthcare players, they need to actually now bring in digitization. They need to actually move from any kind of analog system to digital system. They need to be able to prove their numbers. If you are running an e-platform, you are running telemedicine services, you need to be able to demonstrate, all right, e-invoices for the services you rendered so that you are not overtaxed. Then also, a lot of players in the medium to large space in the, healthcare industry actually need to hire non-medical professionals. They need to be able to have, a competent accounting department, competent finance department, be able to hire, tax experts to properly guide them as to what they can do to be able to get, how will I put it now, reimbursement from the government, understanding the loopholes, in the current tax law, because they are there. I have the document. I went through it recently, and you will see that if you are properly guided, you could actually claim back some money that the tax man has told you that you were supposed to have paid. So things like that. And it's something I think that a lot of the players in the, pharma, healthcare space need to embrace. Most times you find that we are big on hiring medical doctors, pharmacists to run our companies because we are dealing with them from a medical operations standpoint. But we usually shrek back on taking on costs to hire a competent accountant, competent CFO, to have an internal auditor in place who is able to play certain roles, to have a head of compliance and risk, things like that. Or somebody that can combine a bit of those roles together, maybe a head of finance that has some experience in compliance and risk, so be able to advise you properly and to be able to ensure that there's appropriate mitigation. Risks are identified based on your current processes, and those risks can be mitigated against 2026 financial season, so that you know how to get ahead. For every rule book, there is usually some gray areas that, legal gray areas that you can, to explore. But one major area that needs to, be looked into, especially as regards, players like Drugstock, who have a lot of, in your structure of your organization, is the law as regards locally operating but foreign foreign owned. When you have parent companies that are registered outside of the country, all right, but own entities in the country. That is where you have a local subsidiary, but there's a foreign owned entity that is the parent entity of the business. So there needs to be an examination as to, how you are going to function and run in light of that, because in the prevalent law, you could claim that, oh, I have a parent entity that is paying taxes to the native nation that I'm in. This is just my subsidiary in Nigeria. Nigeria is not my primary place of existence. That has changed because they've seen it that a lot of people have been trying to bypass, paying taxes due to that kind of structure. Now, with the new tax law, that's out of it. Whether you are Nigerian owned and you have a foreign subsidiary, or you are Nigerian operated, you're operating in Nigeria, or you are whatever it is, you are going to pay, the taxes that you're supposed to pay. So I don't think it is that adverse to the healthcare industry. I think that the healthcare industry is a bit protected here. And I think that going forward, if you structure right, this should not be a problem. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Nale. Thank you. That was really insightful. I'm also wondering how all of this affects pharmaceutical pharmacies, so retail pharmacies, community pharmacies. How would this new tax and all of what you have said, is there a significant impact? Does it favor them? So because these are retail businesses, right? And how would this whole thing affect or impact them?
Okay, so we look at it from the standpoint of the value chain. The retail pharmacy player has a distributor that he buys from. That distributor has a manufacturer that he buys from. So when you look at it from that standpoint, you need to ask yourself a question. So what's going on in that space? Number one, the government has brought out a list of APIs that go into the manufacturing of certain OTCs that are not, they don't pay duty on it to kind of reduce the cost of manufacturing. So what that means is that the reliance, the pressure, the FX pressure, plus custom pressure is reduced. So there should be price stabilization going forward in that space. So the person who is in the retail business, because he's not required to, charge VAT on selling drugs, all right, to the person who is coming to buy from him, then he can do some minor price adjustments, on what he's on his sale price, without the government coming to tell him, hey, where's your VAT? No, it's VAT exempt because it is drugs, it is consumables, it is that. Where the retail player has to, be concerned, that if he is generating revenues of over 100 million and he has asset size of over 250 million, is that he now has to make sure that his records are in order and he is, able to demonstrate transparently, all right, what his profitability is, so that the taxman does not arbitrarily tax him on what he should not be taxed. So my advice to anybody in the retail pharmacy space is keep excellent record. Many of them don't. I'm not talking of this EMR on your laptop. No. You need to have audited financials. Get an auditor in, get an accountant in, prepare management account, prepare audited financials, then your taxation, all right, your tax provisioning, all right, based on the accounting here is going to be based on the profit that you report, So transparency, being able to know exactly how much you're making is very, 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 very key to the players in the retail pharmacy space. Now, as time goes on, the retail pharmacy spaces that are run as shops and not as companies, they will struggle, because if you are not excellent in record keeping, this law is going to put you in a lot of trouble. They will just tax you arbitrarily. They'll say, this is your profit. They will come up with one formula and say, well, your margin is supposed to be this and it's supposed to be this, and boom, they are going to tax you. So the taxman is going to go on the offense. That is what the taxman, they changed the name now. It's Nigerian Revenue Service. So it's a revenue generating entity. The vision, the focus, the scope is revenue generator. So that's what they're going to do. You have to play defense. You have to have your records. You have to have, key personal records and all that. That is how you are going to be able to say, hey, you are trying to charge me more than I should pay. This is what my profit is. I have the law. I have the tax code with me. This is what I'm supposed to pay. This is my profit. And, everything will add up. It's an act of, the tax law is a legal document. And the taxman has to play by the rules that the government has set.
Thank you very much, Dr. Lale. Thank you. So I'll go straight to Famoji now. You are both a tax expert and a pharmacist, and you run a community pharmacy. So how, from your own perspective now, how would you describe the immediate and long-term effects, or possible immediate and long-term effects of these tax reforms on independent healthcare facilities in Nigeria? Famoji, did you hear me? Yes.
Yes. I did. Good morning, everyone. Thank you once again, Drugstock, for this opportunity. And I guess that our speakers, those that have gone ahead of me, they've mentioned one or two things.
Yes.
So what I would like to really bring out, like you're asking for the long-term effect, the short-term effect. One thing we need to know is that what this will do for us is, because we are not paying so much, I would say most community pharmacies are like 80% fall under the category of small companies. That means doing less than 100 million per annum and have much less than 250 million assets. So there's going to be what I call more funds, because you are not paying so much. More funds on your hands. It has increased cash flow, because like this last speaker said, the prices of drugs is now stable. So what happens now is that the consumers can afford. So there's that purchasing power on the side of the consumer. They can buy. Even for those who are out there, don't forget that the personal income tax is kind of would favor them. So they have more funds to get drugs from us, and so that will lead to a kind of a higher demand or growth for us, and invariably you probably have to talk about, okay, I want to get more than one staff. I want to get 2 more. So in other words, we're talking about growth and development. That is what it's in it for us. And there's so many other things, improved depreciation and all that. And a long-term investment. I want to quote what our keynote address speaker said. She said, compliance strengthens trust and attracts capital. So it puts us in a good position for investors. So that's what I see. So if you follow through, if you're compliant, if you're transparent, if you document, you will definitely attract good investors into your business. So I think that's what I can say.
All right, thank you. I also want to ask, as a follow-up to what the keynote speaker said about professional bodies now really playing a key role in coming together to talk about any way that policies can be adjusted or modified to suit the profession as a whole. So you're a leader in ACPN and in HCPAN. So how do you see professional associations play a role in helping members succeed with these new reforms?
Okay, so the first thing is education as a key role player. I think the keynote address speaker talked about what associations can do. So it's going back there, ensuring that our members get enlightened. So having more webinars like this within the association. Also collaboration. No, you're talking about advocacy. She made mention of something like that, where we can come together speaking with one voice, because the things that are peculiar to us we need to voice out. The government may not know what is peculiar to us. So we need to come out there and let the government know that this is what is happening to us. I think the new policy really helps us, because now we have what I will call the what's it called, the ombudsman that protects, so we can easily, approach them to talk about what is happening to us. And the law is not going to take effect until January. So I think even before now, before the guidelines take off, we should come together and see how we engage government, bringing all our stakeholders together, talking to governments even before January 1. So I don't think we should wait. So go back into the law. The last speaker said something about a lot of loopholes. So it's going through it again and see what we need to do so that we don't shoot ourselves in the foot. And one other thing that I know that is very poor with us is digitalization. A lot of us are still doing paperwork. So it's time to put our house in order. The last speaker made mention of something on if you're having something above 100 million. Let me tell you, this is just to bring us in. It's going to come to a time we will still pay that. It may not be immediate. For me, I like to tell myself that government is just giving us like a 5 years tax-free holiday, So whether you like it or not, put your house in order. Let the association focus on digitalizing their members, helping them, doing more trainings, creating more awareness, enlightenment, and all that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, ma'am. Yeah.
Yeah, so if I'm just to add to that, and Famuji, thanks for that. So very strong point you ended it, because what we find is that a lot of small, maybe we say growing businesses, see their requirement to not pay tax as an indefinite holiday. So what you find exactly, so what you find is that, and also to your point as to the fact that, okay, because the tax rules favor the healthcare space, so it means that you have a lot more to run your business, you have a lot more to plow back into your business. So that means growth eventually. Okay, so but if you don't plan for that growth, with that growth will come visibility to the tax man. But if from inception you are not keeping your records right, you are not planning for the growth, when you now become visible and within the space of taxation, it becomes a problem. And how far back can you really go to get your records right? So that's a very strong point. The government just see it as a window to prepare for a stage whereby when you grow, you have the right records. I think Dr. Alaleye also mentioned this. You don't want to be in a position where the taxman just come up with the best of judgment. I've seen a lot of entities that they say, well, we've looked at your building, we've looked at your lifestyle. From our evaluation, you should be earning this amount of money. But you know that is ridiculous, but you also don't have enough documentation to substantiate. So you are stuck. You end up having to negotiate with them behind the curtains or just complying. So you never want to be at that position. From inception, plan for your growth, keep your records straight. And also a very strong point Dr. Olaleye mentioned, which you also emphasize, is the fact that yes, the rules favor the healthcare right now because there are no real big changes. However, it calls for operational efficiency. It calls for you understanding what's in there to ensure compliance, because no new rules in terms of what you should do in addition, but there are things to be done. And if you don't do it, there are penalties for non-compliance. And that can erode your profitability if not properly managed. So operational efficiency is also very critical. Yeah, I just thought to add that.
Yes, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Ms. Adesope.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So Dr. Olaleye, please back to you. So now for digital health adoption, we know that most businesses now adopting one form of tech or the other. Now, how will these new tax reforms influence digital health adoption, influence tech adoption, the adoption of digital tools for healthcare businesses? Dr. Laleye.
All right, thanks for the question.
Yeah, as well as data too, because this particular question came up at the last webinar. Data collection, how people will be taxed based on the data they collect of, stuff like that. So I just want us to understand how all of these advancements, digital advancements will affect, or tax will affect the adoption, and yes, thank you.
Well, I don't think so. For example, we are pushing a digitization drive. We want to ensure that you move a lot of your services, online, and we want to sell digital product. Basically, what the new tax law says, if I read correctly, was that for services that are rendered on digital platforms, all right, those are going to be taxed. All right, you are going to pay VAT on those services, so it's like when you go to the hospital and you get a consultation from the doctor. All right, they are not saying that service that you receive from the doctor, you're going to there's going to be a tax on it. So what is just going to happen is the providers of the service, whoever is running the service digitally, is just going to put that tax, on top of it. So you factor it into, all right, the cost of the service that you are rendering. There's a wise way to do it. You could declare it and put, oh, this is my consultation fee, and this is the VAT on on the service that I've just rendered to you. It is broken down in your bill. I think what should happen is that there should be transparency. A lot of tech companies will need to do an adjustment on the invoicing, the e-invoicing component of their solutions, to be able to, transparently report that I charged 5,000 naira for this service, about say 500 naira or 400 and something naira is the VAT charge. So total charge I charge to this person is 500 and something. So if I saw 1,000 patients digitally, this is going to be the VAT that I am supposed to pay, the VAT that accrues based on the number of people that I saw, because it is already transparently done and all that. I don't think that adversely affects, because if you look at the services that are rendered digitally currently in the healthcare space, it's mostly consultation. What more are you going to what other service are you going to render? You are not trading crypto, so crypto does not apply to you. You are not building anything on Solana, so it does not really apply to you. You are not doing anything on blockchain currently, maybe in the future. But even if you're building on the blockchain, these products you are building on blockchain. So if you're going to sell on the infrastructure of blockchain, all right, what you sell, there must be a component of it. So I think what needs to happen is for the adopters of or the builders of digital products in the healthcare space to make it very, very clear, transparent, without any form of ambiguity, all right, for the taxman to know, this is what I sold, okay? This is what I sold. This is the VAT that accrues based on what I sold. So I am letting the taxman know, this is it. So as the more transparent and the more easy to understand your financial process is, the less complicated your tax audit is going to be. But when it is difficult to understand, then people start digging and checking, and make it transparent, make it easy to understand, make it easy for people to navigate, and it's it's easy. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes. So maybe just to add to that, and Dr. Laleye are very spot on. So I guess the point is, for companies currently operating in Nigeria, there's no real change as to what, particularly for the healthcare space, there's no big change as to what will be taxable or not. So services that are currently not taxable, if routed through a digital platform, will remain not taxable. I guess the point for local companies is that the fact that if you should be taxed, the fact that you are doing it through a platform does not exclude you. However, I guess the biggest point to keep in mind will be where you have interactions as a local company with foreign medical service providers. Maybe you, as part of your functions or in delivering your services, you engage the expertise of persons offshore or professionals offshore. You need to, well, including those done digitally, you need to keep in mind that the new laws have expanded the tax requirements to further bring into the Nigerian tax net services provided by foreign companies. So if you have a case where those services will be taxable, you as a local company may have an obligation to withhold taxes at the point where you're making payments to them. An example within the law, if you're providing, as a foreign company, if a foreign company is providing consultation services or some form of technical services to maybe a pharmacy or a hospital in Nigeria, the local hospital will be required to deduct a tax of 10% on those services, except if the law clearly exempts those services from tax. So I think it's just to be mindful of the fact that even if you're doing your services digitally, if it's taxable, then you should account for taxes. And then secondly, interactions with foreign companies and the requirements to, account for taxes upon payments to them. That's the deduction of taxes at source. I think that's an important point to keep in mind.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you. All right, so I'll take one question from the audience before I go on with my own questions. So this is a case study, I'm thinking. So it says, here is a live scenario experience with a neighborhood chemist. The chemist is trying to sell off stock to make way for new ones, which he says will be marked up in price from January to cover costs from the tax reforms. Further engagement shows that this is the general consensus in that community. It is observed that deep sensitization and enlightenment such as this will go a long way in educating the health sector, especially at the grassroots level. It is hoped that this is also part of the focus of this program. Payee, many were not paying it before. VAT, the zero rate is still not clear to most, and the need to register to claim any incidental input VAT cost is still looked at with suspicion and fear. So thank you very much for this contribution. I think it's more of a contribution, right? There is a lot of misunderstanding and misinformation regarding the new tax laws. There are fears, which are, not valid or shouldn't even be. People are not sure what it is, what it says. So they're just trying to be proactive in quotes, and some of these actions are not necessary. So thank you very much for these comments. I don't know if any of the speakers would like to speak to it, or should I just go on with the next question?
I think it just further corroborates what Famoji said in terms of collaboration of the bodies within the healthcare space to, incentivize people. Because if from what this person said looks like what neighboring pharmacies are now doing, it starts to impact the cost. And I don't see any real reason or real impact that would warrant that. So maybe sensitization in that space, should help. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. Thank you. Famoji, Dr. Olaleye, do you want to say anything, or should I go on to the next question?
Nothing from my end. Please proceed.
Okay.
Yes,
all right.
just go.
All right. So there's another question. Please, this new tax law, is it really new? What are those things we need to do not to run foul of this law? Thanks. Okay. Any takers?
Well, I think every speaker has touched on that. Is it new? It depends on where you sit. For some businesses, there are big changes. For some, not really. In the healthcare space, not really. If anything, maybe positioning yourself for the benefits therein and understanding what you need to do. But to answer the question, I think we've all said, be aware, understand what the rules are, understand what the provisions are, understand how you can position yourself to be compliant, understand how you can take advantage of any benefits it provides, because it's not entirely bad. I actually think, like Dr. Olaleye said, it's a lot more beneficial from where you sit as healthcare healthcare providers. So if you can afford it, engage the services of advisors that can actually help you take advantage of the provisions. I think once you do that, you're fine. Know it. Always act from a place of knowledge, knowing and understanding, and then act. Simply put.
Yes, thank you. Okay, so Dr. Olaleye, this question from I think you already spoke to it, but I'm just going to ask you so that you put a bit more focus on it.
I'm not hearing you well.
Am I audible, please? Can we hear me?
Okay, it's better.
It's better. Okay, great. All right, I see thumbs up. Yes. All right, so Dr. Olaleye, from a financing perspective, how can healthcare providers further position themselves to remain compliant with these laws? So we know that we're all saying that you should be compliant. There is a lot of talk about compliance, but sometimes when you are overcome with the daily operations, something starts to fall through the cracks, and then, like the keynote speaker said, sometimes you can go years without even keeping track, knowing what you're feeling the pulse on and all of that. So how would you advise healthcare providers to further position themselves to stay compliant, and still not be, it shouldn't still affect their margins or their profits?
Yeah, I think I spoke to that to an extent. First thing for them to realize is that staying compliant is a cost-saving measure. Most times, a lot of health businesses look at what you need to do to stay in compliant to be as an expenditure thing to think what they're going to spend, but it's actually cost saving. What they actually need to do is structure for it, hire for it. You need to get the right people in, all right, to be able to, own that space, own that process, in your business. Most growing business should have a head of legal and compliance, or a head of legal risk and compliance. It doesn't even need to be someone that has been, there for donkey years or in the industry, just someone with, minimum experience who wants to grow in that space, who reads and tracks. You send the person for training, and all of that, that would help you to a measure. Another thing you can do is that you can outsource it. You can get consultants in who can come and do an assessment of your business. You can get some, consultants who can come and do an assessment of business currently, and they are going to identify, the risk areas, identify the non-compliant areas, give you a report, and give you, recommendations as to what you need to do presently to fix those things, short-term, medium-term, and long-term. The truth about it is that Nigeria is getting to a point where we are trying to be like the developed world. We want our economy to scale and grow. We want to increase our tax to GDP ratio from what it is to where it should be. So the tax net has to widen. And when you are having that happen, businesses, because of the pressure that's going to come from the government, will have to adapt or they will die. All right. So that adaptation is what we are trying to get the business owners, all right, on this call to prepare for right now. In fact, it's already too late. All right. But the next best time for you to do it is now. All right, so it's to get yourself in such a person where you are structured properly. All right, you are able to run as a business, not as a shop, as a company, not as a shop, not a person just buying and selling. You're not a trader. You are a health business. You have a company that renders health services. So structure appropriately for it. Know what is going on. Know the laws. Know the requirements. Know the changes, in the tax code that is relevant to your sector, and have champions within your business that are able to own that side of the business for you. If you don't have champions, then educate yourself as to how to own that aspect of the business for you. Or thirdly, hire a consultant who comes in and does an assessment for you, gives you a recommendation, then they can, supervise for a period of time, handhold until players in the business can actually now, carry it on. If you just look at it that you are saving money, all right, with what you spend to restructure, you are saving money, all right, in the long run, rather than spending money. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Olaleye. All right, before I go to my next question, which was supposed to be...
I actually wanted to add something to what he said. What he said, yes, was spot on. I just want to add this, that in the process of looking at the cost, because for some pharmacies, they're like looking at, oh, for me to employ an accountant, a tax consultant, it's probably going to be something very, you could come together, 10 pharmacies, 20, come together and get one person. So you share the cost. Is the suggestion. And secondly, I'll still go back to understanding what the law says. For example, a lot of people who are not limited liability, and they are just business names, they will go on and think that, because they said if my turnover is not up to 100 million and all that, I'd like to say here that that does not apply to a business name. That's because business names don't pay CIT. That does not apply to a business name. So you really, really need to understand the law. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Famuji, for that contribution. I had a question for you, Famuji, but then a question just came up in the Q&A box for Dr. Olaleye. And I'm going to say that first because it basically took the words out of my mouth when he talked about hiring a professional. So the question is, and my question also, so this person just echoed my thoughts, is that some businesses may not be able to engage a professional at this time. That's Dr. Olaleye. But I understand producing a very detailed financial report will help. So my question is, how can we, or let me just quote the person, how should a financial report be structured to promote complete transparency and easy auditing? So now the structure of the financial report. Dr. Olaleye, did you get the question?
Well, so, there's a reason why I laughed, and I think that the mindset of healthcare players needs to shift, because you need to shift it. I'm telling you, because you want me to give you a cop-out question like, okay, if you can't do the audited financial, you need to do the audited financial. This is 2025. Yes, we need to. I am tired of saying, I don't want to, look, healthcare is a business. We need to run it like a business. We have to. We for too long, look, capital does not, I was in any Nigeria Economic, NESG, and I was a speaker there. I was representing my MD. And, they were asking, why is it that banks don't like lending money to healthcare spaces? And I said, that's not true. Banks want to lend money. We want to deploy our capital. The issue is that capital does not like going where it's not secure. Capital is afraid of uncertainty. Capital is afraid of going where we don't know what is going on. Hire a professional, do your audited financial. Sometimes you can actually get a management account prepared for you for as low as 100,000 naira, 120,000 naira. Because whoever is asking me about, we don't have the capacity to do our financials yet, but that person is obviously making under 50 million naira, right? In terms of revenue, So you can afford to put some money aside to pay this accountant, to prepare something for you, to pay an auditor, to review. An auditor is going to be charging you, all right, a fee commensurate with your revenue. He will look at also your profit to charge you a fee. That's how a proper auditor is going to charge you, because you do need it, because you need to begin to think like someone that wants to attract investment capital. You want to attract equity into your business. You need to begin to think as someone who wants to attract debt into it. There is a way not to think. So, for example, if I had to respond to you that, okay, if you're going to present the structure you're going to present your financials in, is that it must have 3 statements: a statement of cash flow, a statement of income, all right, and a balance sheet. It needs to be prepared in accordance with IFRS 9 standard. Do you know what that means? No, the professional does. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Olaleye. Okay, we have heard. We have heard, and that is true. You know, while you were talking, I was also thinking about my own experience in community practice. I mean, generally, I think it's true. You know, we are working on, or it's something we should work on, a mind shift regarding just repositioning your mindsets and that of your business to this level where you're attractive to investors, really, because you know the more investors you have, the more the capacity for growth, and then you grow,
Yeah.
and it's better generally for the healthcare system. So yes, Dr. Lana, thank you for that. We needed to hear it. Apparently, I saw a couple of laughs there. I was laughing as well while he was talking. So thank you. I'm going to ask Famoji a question before I take. I'm seeing a question in the Q&A section, but I'm going to quickly ask Famoji. So we have seen that there is a lot of uncertainty, right, in or misinformation generally amongst people, amongst community pharmacies and healthcare providers. So what is that really quick step that you would advise the government or healthcare or professional bodies, anybody to do? And when I say quick steps, like I mean in the before next year, so that there is a sort of level playing field for everybody. There isn't anybody saying, oh, I did not know. So what would you advise even the healthcare providers themselves to do? I know that it is rather obvious to be educated to, you know, read these tax structures, but this is easier said than done. Before this session, I primed myself to, you know, read the new reforms and so that I have like premium understanding. It didn't quite work out because I still had a lot of questions in my mind and so many things were unclear. So is there a hack to it to understanding it? I'm asking you this because you also know tax. So how can you help us to further, you know, integrate ourselves and our businesses into the tax laws? Did you get that?
All right. Yes. How do we integrate ourselves? I think one of the things the keynote address speaker said was that we need to plan. We really need to do that. So how do we go about that? The last speaker already said it. Engage those who are knowledgeable about it so that you have more knowledge. 2, ask questions. That is very important. 3, advocate, get your association. So where there's ambiguity, where there are uncertainties and all that, and you feel we can get better bargains, let's engage the tax authority before January 1. So these things we need to do immediately. And financial literacy is very important. Beyond taxation, I think financial literacy is important because one of the things that if we're not careful is how do you label your expenses? And I'm talking of financial literacy now. How do you label your expenses? If not, you just, the government rather will just come and say, oh, madam, we've seen your so and so company, we've seen your turnover, it's not what you said it is, and all that, or even you yourself while you were doing that transfer. There's no narration. We can't even remember what you used the money for. So all these things are important. Financial literacy, it's for me, those are steps that we should do. And I know that there are some banks that offer these things free. The association, the bank that the association uses can come and cover that, or we can engage some banks that are healthcare focused, like Sterling Bank. Okay, Sterling Bank, please come to ACPN, you know, come do a financial literacy for us and things like that, so that little things we can know and we're not that lost. I don't know if that answers your question.
Yes, it does. Yes, it does. Thank you very much, ma'am. Thank you, Famoji. All right, so there is another question. All right, so someone is asking if Drugstore can have like a customer/tax consultant session with us. Right, I like what I'm saying. It can even be paid for a physical class. I mean, already the prices of drugs are expensive. So imagine having to add taxes just because you want to be sure you are not underselling. Yes, this is actually very valid. And about having a session, yeah, we have that is actually in the works already. We have sessions lined up. So this tax session is also one of the things that we have, and it's something I was going to announce at the end of this session. So this is a kind of a preamble to it. So thank you for bringing that up. So yes, as we all know, the drug stock learning webinars have been free, and this is because of a lot of sponsors that we have had, and some speakers that will just choose to come and just do all of this for us without any cost. I mean, it's been taken off the cost sometimes, but there are some of these, really there are some sessions that we have to have, like that should run into 4 hours or longer because of the intensity that they require, and these are already in the works. So from next year, you'll be seeing a rebrand of Drug Talk Learning, where we will introduce topics that's, intensive masterclasses that people can actually sit down in, get certificates, and just be altogether informed. And we are grateful so far for all the speakers across over the years that have come to speak, that have made the Drug Talk Learning brand itself have so much, now what's the word? Some audiences have a lot of confidence in the sessions, At the last session, someone even said that they are confident of whatever it is we bring to the table, and that meant a lot for us. So yes, thank you for the confidence and the trust in this platform. Yes, we will have sessions like this going forward, and we know that when it is time, we will have a lot of involvement and participation. So yes, I understand the concerns currently for this tax, but I want us to also approach, I'm saying this generally now for everybody on the call, let's approach this going into next year with not with trepidation and fear. What's it's going to be like, this tax structure. It's not going to be, we'll see that it will come, and then you see that it wasn't really as terrible as you feared it would be. There are, as we have heard, there are perks for us in these reforms. There are lots of perks and things we can leverage on to even scale faster, to scale our businesses faster. And I think we should take proper advantage of that, of this opportunity, like all the speakers have said. So I'm going to give, we are coming to the end of this session. I thank everybody who has stayed till now. I'm not going to ask a last question all around so that we can wrap up. I know that Dr. Olale has spoken so much about how we need a mindset shift, and I lend my voice to it needs to happen. And I think that this tax reforms is a wake-up call for everybody generally, to make you pay more attention to your books, your finances. And I think it was a keynote speaker that said earlier at the beginning of the session that there has to be more digitization happening. And what this does for you is that it helps you to be abreast of whatever is going on in your business. So as opposed to having books and having manual records, you are even able to go as far back as 5 years because you have everything digitized. And then it immediately gives you visibility. Your records, everything is visible to you. You can check for, so there are tools like that, Of course, I'm going to talk about Pilometer because it is a product that I love. So we have Pilometer from Drugstock that helps you to take records, and you can have that visibility. So what even that does for you in addition is that even when you bring in an external auditor to view your books, they made something that is almost half done. And you see that you don't have to even pay exorbitant rates because you have even done most of the work yourself, because you have everything digitized, you have everything clean and clear and plain. So they just come and see, and okay, this is what you should do. It's just easier for you rather than them having to go through papers and lots of paperwork, and they're asking questions they don't even have responses to. So I think it's a wake-up call for everybody that you just need to pay a bit more attention to your operational efficiency. Yeah, so I'm going to ask the last round of questions to all the speakers, and we are going to wrap up. So yeah, so Fam Muji, I'm going to just start with you. Yeah, so how would you so when we go into the coming year, right, there may be opportunities for incentives, or maybe I should just ask, what opportunities for incentives should governments and policymakers consider to encourage tax compliance? Is this necessary even, or is there anything like that? Are there instances where there have been incentives or where people have been incentivized to do tax? Of course, incentives could be in form of making processes easier. So in the private healthcare business, where have you seen that pharmacies or doctors or healthcare business owners can be incentivized in their operations to be more tax compliant?
Okay. Thank you. So I'm looking at. I think one of the things this new reform is doing is there is when you pay your tax regularly, when you are clear, when your books are good and all that, when you are transparent. So I think there is a kind of incentive for those who do that. I'm not so certain. I'm sure Madam Adesope will help me out, but I heard there's something like that. Like, for example, for the small business, if you employ more people as you grow, if you employ more and all that, there are some kind of incentives that you would enjoy. If you are transparent enough and you want to get a loan, there are some other things you enjoy and all that. So the government could also look at giving grants for some of these things like digital infrastructure development, and things like that. Governments can also look at recognition and certification, on those who are tax compliant, things like that. So there are different levels. Maybe I'll just say, like, I'll use LASHMA as an example. Okay, so LASHMA, that is the Lagos State Health Management Board, has this health insurance at the state level. And because everything they do is digitalized, so they know the facility that has attended to patients most. They know the facilities that have kind of, how will I put it, that customers or clients have rated the best. So they've organized events. I know we attended one whereby the different facilities were given awards, and they were celebrated. So I think a tax, they can go into something like that. For example, I know that the government right now did something like that for the journalists. So it can extend. So when I mean journalists, right now they're saying between June, when the act came out, and January, that they want to see the most innovative content writer and all that is going to talk about this new tax law, in different languages, and things like that. So there are cash rewards from 10 million and all that. So I think governments can do something like that as well. It's applicable to those who are to encourage those who are paying tax. It's very important.
I was muted. Thank you very much, ma'am. All right, so Dr. Laleye, for you, I know that you have said a lot about mindset shift and all of that, but just as a wrap up to condense everything that you have said. So if you were to advise healthcare businesses right now on regarding the tax reforms? What would be your top 3 financial priorities for them or to them to adopt the new tax reforms while maintaining quality care delivery?
Well, what I would advise them to do is, number one, is for them to move from manual records to digital records. Be able to transparently demonstrate your what exactly it is that you are doing in your business, what your revenue is, what your profit is, what your cost of goods sold is, all of that, for you to be able to transparently, declare that, and for you to also be able to transparently declare to your customers what your price, your price is, how much you are charging them for what you're charging them. So, for example, if you're a hospital, break down your bill. Don't just give an ambiguous bill and say, oh, the cost of this thing is 200,000. What goes into the 200,000? Some of those things that go into the 200,000 are tax exempt. You will not pay, taxes on those things. So break it down, make it easy for people to transparently know how your business is running. So digitize your business. Number 2 is for you to structure it, all right, to be compliant. So be compliant in how you run your business. Yeah, the tax law is here and good, but even without the tax law that has come, I think that every business should be run in a compliant nature. You should run your business in such a way that, because investors, especially private equity, VCs and all that, there are certain things they look out for before they pack money in a business. If you are looking for a partner, all right, to come and partner with your business, because I always advise business owners in the healthcare sector, don't always focus on owning 100% of your business. 100% of zero is zero. Try and see if you can get someone to come in with you and bring some equity. You can own 40% of your business and do excellently well. You can own 30% of your business and do excellently well. But for you to be able to attract that, you need to, be compliant with certain things, understand what that takes, understand what you need to do as regards structuring to be compliant in your operation, structuring to be compliant in how, environmental sustainability, all those kind of things. All right, that's the third thing I'll talk about. And the fourth thing I'm going to speak to in the way you run your business is that you need to price appropriately. Now, I do understand that the cost of drugs currently, comparative to past years, is a bit higher. And the margins in the business is not as much as, even back in the day, years ago, pre-devaluation, margins were not great either. But I think that one of the things that we need to begin to do is either that we are able to appropriately know where we should increase our prices to ensure that, generally year on year, we are able to grow, all right, as businesses, then also look at where we can have cost savings. And cost savings, or having cost savings, will come to the number 1 point on digitalization. There are certain things that probably AI is able to do for you better. Digital product to be able to do for you better that stuff that you currently have on your payroll, all right, is not able to actually do as they should. So identify where those things are, where you can have cost savings and where you can actually grow your revenue with your current numbers. The truth is this: the only industry I have seen that has not yet adjusted, or that did not adjust pricing as it should, comparative to every other industry in the country, whether it's food, beverages, FMCGs, was the healthcare space. All right, was the healthcare space. We couldn't price appropriately for our services. Now, I understand there are a lot of challenges, the HMOs, whatever it is, but we need to begin to consider that, not exorbitantly adjusting our price, but pricing within the limits that the market will accept, because the market understands that these are changing times. All right, we need to get to that point, all right, to be ensuring that we continue remaining going concerns. All right, we must remain going concerns. Before I round up, I want to stress on that number 2, attracting capital for your business. All right, attracting capital for your business. And I think I heard some, I think it was pharmacist Mojisola who spoke on this. I think that one of the things that a lot of healthcare businesses need to consider is consolidation. We need to consider coming together, consolidating, all right, and forming bigger companies, all right, that are, consolidated. I'll give you an example. Let's say you have 100 pharmacies, retail pharmacies. All these 100 don't have proper structure. They don't have the right guys, preparing their books and all. Imagine if you have a consolidation of those 100 pharmacies under one umbrella. All right. They come together, they take share positions in that company, and they call themselves a particular name. All right. Now you now have a corporation with 100 outlets. Now that corporation with 100 outlets goes to APA, speaks with a BC, PE guys. I have 100 outlets. My combined revenue is this. This is my capacity. This is the number of customers I can serve. I have footprint in every state in Nigeria, and I am valuing myself at, say, 50 billion naira. You'll be able to raise money. You'll be able to raise capital, and you will pay lesser taxes. I promise you, you will. Remember, effective tax rate for somebody who is earning more is actually far less. That's in terms of CIT, all right, than someone who is earning less. So I think we need to think differently. We need to think differently. We need to have a switch in what we consider ownership. All right. Ownership does not necessarily have to be my name on the board. Ownership can be I own a portion of something that is bigger, but more revenue and equally more profitable. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Nale. That was very, very, very spot on. I don't know if Mrs. Adesope, do you have anything to contribute before I round up?
Nothing. I think we've all hit the nail. Yeah.
All right. Thank you very much. So thank you everyone for joining in. Very quickly, I'd like to make a special announcement now. For the month of November, Drugstore Cleaning November, we will not have a virtual webinar session. What we are having is we are partnering with a conference, AHEAD Africa conference. I know some of us may have already heard of it. It's happening in November, on 25th of November. So Drugstore Clearing is going to partner with AHEAD to have a physical event. So it's the theme for this year is partnership, technology, and future of healthcare in Africa. AHEAD Africa is it's an acronym for Advancing Healthcare Equity and Access through Digitization. And that's going to be happening in November on the 25th. So we are going to see links to register, to attend, and all of that. It's going to be a very big one. I know that in our past webinars, attendees have been requesting for physical sessions. So because, like I said, we are still working on sponsorship, we have not been able to have a proper Drugstore Clearing physical session. So what we are doing is we are partnering with this conference, and Drugstore Clearing is just going to plug into this, and all of the insightful conversations and everything that Drugstore Clearing is known for is going to be at this conference. And please look out for the link to register. And I would say at this point that the registration slots are very limited. And I think this platform is one of the first platforms to actually hear it. So I'm prioritizing this community because of our consistency. So the registrations are going to be sent to us. Please, when you see it, do well to register immediately, because we are looking at, it is almost certain that within the first week of putting out the registration link, the spaces will be really full. But I'd really like for as many people from this audience to participate in it. It's going to be really big. It's going to be really impactful and insightful. So please look out for the registration links. I would like to say a very big thank you to our panelists. And please, I don't know if panelists, are we able to type in the Q&A box, because many people would like to connect with you on LinkedIn. So if you could please type in your LinkedIn, your real LinkedIn names, so that as much people on this call can connect with you after this. I'd also want to say that it has come to our notice. It has come to our, it's a public service announcement. It has come to our notice that a lot of people that attend these sessions are not following us on our social media handles. So we have a lot of people saying that, oh, is the session tomorrow? You know, when we sent in the 1 day to go yesterday, people were like, oh, it's tomorrow. And, you know, we got some kinds of responses. But we have posted this on our platforms since the beginning of this month. But if you were following us on our social media handles, you would see all of these updates as they come. So please follow us on our handles, and then we will, you can see updates. You can see updates on speakers. You can see updates on the next time we are having sessions and everything that you need to know. Yes. So panelists, please type in your, I think I need technical assistance. Are you able to type in your LinkedIn profiles or your LinkedIn names? Or maybe we'll just send that. So I think we'll just send that post session. So I'm going to include that in the post session so that we are going to include all the links of the panelists so that you can follow them directly. I think so please look out for this when we send the highlights of the webinar. We are going to also include the LinkedIn handles, the social media handles of the panelists and the keynote speaker. Yes, I think that will work. Okay, thank you so much once again for staying. So now we thank our panelists. I'm very grateful for your time, for the attention you have paid to this topic, for really, you know, giving us everything that we have so desired, and for clearing doubts. Very important that for clearing doubts and demystifying it, literally demystifying the tax, I don't want to say brouhaha, but yeah. So thank you. And thanks to everyone who joined for your engagement. This has been really engaging and fun. Thank you for joining. Thank you for staying till now. And we look forward to seeing you at the AHEAD conference in November. And, you know, we will let you know when the next Drug Stock Clearing webinar is. So stay tuned. Also follow us on our platforms. Thank you. And we hope you had as much insight as I have. I mean, I learned so much on this call. I hope that everybody on this call has also learned and is going to not just learn, but also practice everything that has been talked about. So thank you, and I wish everybody a lovely rest of the day. So we are free to leave the call now. Thank you so much, and thanks to our panelists.
Thank you, Iye. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.